So I'm thinking he's gone. And so I did come with the guy and the girl to my house and my room. We did plan on having sexual encounter. Me and the guy and the girl.
Her mom was the one that's known as the neighborhood girl. Everybody slept with her mom. All my friends did.
That's a lie.
Did you?
I did, amongst 20 of them my friends.
You had sex with your husband's friend?
He was my friend initially before I knew they were friends, but yes, they were friends also.
You basically informed him that the father of this child could either be you, my husband, or your friend.
Mr. Adams could go to jail today for not paying child support if the court determines he is the father of Ms. Williams' kid. He has been prohibited by law from leaving his state, so he has joined this session through video conferencing. The defendant, Ms. Williams, says that Mr. Adams' legal issues are his own fault, and his mother, Mrs. Adams, is here in court as well. Let us hear from her.
Your Honor, my son is now facing jail because of this situation.
This very moment, you're concerned that he could be arrested for failure to pay child support for a child that both of you have doubts is even his child.
True, Your Honor.
Mr. Adams?
Yes, Your Honor, I can hear you.
All right, so enlighten me on this situation.
Okay, Mr. Judge of Character. Ms. Williams agrees that it was not a committed relationship and was basically an off and on thing. But does that not mean she cannot be sure that he is the father since she has slept with so many men? Well, Ms. Williams says their doubt is valid, but somehow Mr. Adams is the one who's been forced to run from the law. Weird how that works. But Ms. Williams has a great reason for this.
Everybody agrees may or may not be his.
I asked him twice to get the DNA test. He said, I'm hungover. He was giving me excuses, basically. So I took it upon myself to get help with the DNA test. It wasn't for no money at all.
No one ever wants to be at fault for these sorts of things. But Ms. Williams has a whole lot more to share, and that makes this case one of the messiest ones to have ever appeared on paternity court.
You're the father or whatever, so we just went through that whole year. I was pregnant. I didn't mention him about the baby until I found out it wasn't my ex.
So when you got pregnant, you didn't even include Mr. Adams in this equation.
No, I didn't.
You thought it was your ex's.
So it is an open and shut case then. If the baby does not belong to her ex, then it must surely belong to Mr. Adams, right? Well, that is not quite how things work over here in paternity court. Cases get a lot more complex than that. So how did Mr. Adams get into this legal problem? Well, Ms. Williams said she now knew that he was her baby daddy for sure, so she went to the state to get help.
It got to the point where you needed help, and so you went to the state.
Yes.
And then during that time, you had to name who the potential father could be.
Yes, I did.
And you gave the state his name.
Yes, I did.
And then he was ordered to go to court.
Yes, he was.
Mr. Adams, did you go to court?
No, Your Honor.
And that is how it went. Mrs. Adams here says she once overheard Ms. Williams tell her daughter that Mr. Adams was not the father of her child. And Ms. Williams says that never happened. And here is how she puts it.
Question came up again, was my son the father of the child? And she said no.
That's
actually.
a lie.
So you heard her say no?
Yes, she said no in my living room. And she's over there talking about it's a lie, and she was in my very own living room when she said it.
I wouldn't have never came to your son. A possibility is a possibility. I never said no, and I never said he was the father.
Well, let us hope that Ms. Williams is really not lying, because that could be extremely embarrassing. Of course, Mrs. Adams says that this makes her very doubtful that the child is for her son, and honestly, it makes me kind of doubtful too. Well, it is the time for the truth, because Mr. Adams is now alleging some really troubling things.
Well, actually, Your Honor, I do feel like it was other people as well.
What evidence do you have to suggest that?
My mother told me that she talked to Miss Williams, and that Miss Williams stated that she had some other guys tested as well.
That was my ex I had tested. There were no other guys. It was just one.
Just the ex, right? Okay then, if you say so, Ms. Williams, if you say so. Mrs. Adams and Ms. Williams have been quite cordial up until this point, but something sparks between them, and then they start shouting at each other in court.
If she would have known who the father of her child was from jump, having all that sex with all them guys unprotected,
and I'm gonna own up to it. Yes, I did.
You wouldn't be going through this.
It's a possibility. I had sex with your son, not you.
It don't matter. If that child is the child of my son, it'll be my grandson.
There is surely no love lost between these two. Anyway, it is time to get this over with and see if Ms. Williams has been lying all this while. Is Mr. Adams the father, or is the father another man?
That Mr. Adams is not the father.
Take me off child support, baby.
Mr. Adams, you done come to the wrong courtroom clowning. This is not a joke. It's nothing to dance about. It's nothing to laugh about. Your future was on the line because of your bad decisions. Now you should be ashamed of yourself.
Mr. Hunter caught Ms. Davies in the act of cheating on him and then called off his wedding to her. He is also now disputing the paternity of Ms. Davies' son Jaden and believes he is not the father. Ms. Davies says all of this is a lie, and Mr. Hunter is basically seeing ghosts. Here is how Ms. Davies sees things.
Ms. Davies, Jaden is 4 years old. What took you so long to come to court?
Well, Your Honor, me and Devon, like you stated, have been together for 5 years, almost 6. And due to all the rumors, he no longer wants to get married. He has cut off our wedding plans. So I'm here today to prove that he is the father of Jaden.
This sounds like a really confident woman. A woman as confident as Ms. Davies can surely not be lying about the paternity of her child, right? Such weird things never happen on paternity court, right? Right? Anyway, Ms. Davies says she is not the cheat in this relationship, and the cheat is actually Mr. Hunter.
We were happy when we first got together, but then I started finding text messages, phone calls from other females. So at that point of the relationship, Your Honor, I no longer trusted him at all.
Well, I found messages in her phone too, same thing. So that's why I started doing the things I was doing.
Messages from whom?
Messages like, when you coming out, can I come get you?
Oh, so both of them just continued cheating on one another. That cannot be healthy. But Ms. Davies has a good reason for cheating on her husband. Yes, she actually does, if you can believe it. And she does us the favor of sharing that reason with us.
Then I decided that, okay, two can play that game, and I decided to go out and talk to someone else.
Now, once you did that, what happened?
Well, once I did that, I briefly had a relationship with the guy. We were sexually together a few times.
Did you use
Why
protection?
she with me?
A couple times we did not, Your Honor.
Well, she did not sleep with the man. She was just sexually in contact with him. Anyway, Ms. Davies soon got pregnant off that one sexual contact, and now we have got to ask the million-dollar question. How does she know that the baby belongs to Mr. Hunter instead of some other man? Let us hear from her.
I couldn't say I was 100% sure at the time, but I wanted Devon to be the father because he has been there in my life for, at this time, we've been together like 2.5 years.
All right, so now we're getting honest now, and
Right.
that's what we're here to do.
Right.
The truth is when you told him you wanted him to be,
Yes.
but you didn't know for certain.
Yes, Your Honor.
At least we are now getting some sorely needed truths in this building. Mr. Hunter says he immediately had paternity doubt when she told him she was pregnant. He based this doubt off rumors and things he had heard and seen himself. So what things did this man hear and see that made him doubt that his partner was carrying his baby?
People tell me that she been hanging out, hopping in and out of cars, you know what I mean? I had a friend that told me they went to a party one time and she hooked up with some guy at the party. That was around the time when the baby was finna be conceived.
You're not denying it, you're just smirking, Miss Davies. What's the story?
I did go to parties.
Well, maybe that is false, Ms. Davies. But you literally just told us now that you had sexual contact several times with another man, so Mr. Hunter is right to have a mountain of paternity doubts. And then Mr. Hunter has another interesting story for us.
I'm at her house, right? She let me stay over her house. I had been drinking, so I want to go lay down, right? I accidentally fall asleep longer than I'm supposed to, so she's thinking I'm gone. She brings another guy and another girl upstairs into the room while I'm in there. So then she makes me leave.
Wait, I was kind of wrong. Mr. Hunter should not have a mountain of paternity doubts. He should have several mountains of one and maybe a C, or 2 as well. But Ms. Davies kind of explains it away. But her explanation is not quite helpful. Just listen to her.
I did let him come over just because he was drinking. He said he needs to sleep it off for a while. So I'm thinking he's gone. And so I did come with the guy and the girl to my house and my room.
What were you bringing the guy and the girl in your room to do?
Your Honor,
We all know what that's finna do.
we did plan on having sexual encounter.
So there are now at least 2 different guys in the equation, and somehow Ms. Davies insists that her son belongs to Mr. Hunter. She gets so upset about everything that she starts to cry, and that just makes Mr. Hunter tell the court even more embarrassing stories. Listen to him go.
You can't be too hurt right now, 'cause it's not the first time. I caught her in the kitchen. We sitting in the living room one day, and then she gets up and walks to the kitchen, and she's in the kitchen for like maybe 10, 15 minutes. She's supposed to came back already. I walk around to the kitchen, and she's damn near standing in between this guy's legs. Like, you know what I mean? What is that about?
What What is this about? Because you say it
like
hurts
it's
to hear
numerous
you.
times.
You know what? We have heard enough. It is time to check out the DNA test results and see what is actually going on here. Is Ms. Davies just a big fat liar? Or is Mr. Hunter just trying to run from his responsibilities?
Mr. Hunter, you are not father.
I told you.
I'm very sorry. Ms. Davies, are we to assume that this other gentleman is Jaden's biological father, the one you spoke about in your testimony, or is there someone else? Let's be honest.
No, there's no one else, Your Honor.
Mrs. Cleveland cheated on her husband with his friend, but claims that her husband is the father of her 17-month-old child, Hunter. Despite cheating, she has absolutely no doubt that he is the father of her child, and she thinks a positive DNA test today will save her marriage. Here is how she says the marriage looks like today.
My marriage is currently on the rocks. We argue on the daily. I see him treating our son differently than he does his daughter, and it bothers me inside.
I try not to treat him any differently. I try to treat him like he's mine.
You said you try to.
It's a little hard sometimes, I'm not gonna lie, Your Honor. I mean, there's that thought there that he is not mine, and
Mrs. Cleveland says that she fights all the time with her husband because of this, and her marriage has basically been going downhill. But there must be a reason why her husband is having all these fights with her, right? Well, Mr. Cleveland tries to get into it, but Ms. Cleveland has a different perspective on how things went down.
yes, Your Honor, it does. I mean, like she said, I feel like I'm living a lie, Your Honor. You know, I've been lied to and cheated on, you know. I feel,
Your Honor,
I
I've
feel
never
like,
cheated on him.
Oh.
I left him before I ever did anything with any other man.
Okay, so the text and everything behind my back isn't cheating. I consider that cheating.
What are the texts behind your back?
Like sexy messages, like I miss you, I love you, you're so handsome.
But that kind of means you were certainly cheating on your husband, right? And remember that just before admitting to cheating, Mrs. Cleveland said that she had never cheated, so this woman is certainly not above lying in court. Here is Mrs. Cleveland's perspective on things.
I was ready to call it quits. I was ready to wash my hands with the whole situation. I was ready for a divorce. He finds out that I kissed this guy and he wants to be husband of the world, you know? He wanted to be a perfect husband.
When did you find out you were pregnant with Hunter?
I found out 2 weeks before we got back together.
And once you found out you were pregnant, you all reconciled.
Yes.
You decided to
Sure.
reconcile, Mr. Cleveland?
Yes, Your Honor.
Wow, Mr. Cleveland clearly loves this baby so much. It will be such a shame if it turns out he is not the father. 1 month after the child was born, Mrs. Cleveland drops the bombshell and tells Mr. Cleveland the truth that he might not be the father. And that was not the only bombshell she dropped.
Him the first month I was pregnant, that it could be him or his friends.
Now.
Wait, what? Hold on, don't just gloss over that. You told him a month. What did you say?
I was a month pregnant and I told him it could be his child, but it could also be his friends because me and his friend had a sexual relationship.
No, she didn't, Your Honor. Otherwise, I would not have stuck around through that pregnancy if I knew there
Wait a
chance the
minute.
kid was
He
not
told
mine.
me
So
he'd be there
wait.
one.
This is just so messy. Mr. Cleveland says if he knew that the child could belong to his friend, he would have never stuck around for the birth. He says she only told him she even slept with any of his friends after the birth of Hunter, and that nothing like that happened before the birth. So why did Mrs. Cleveland even sleep with her husband's friend? Well, the reason might shock you.
His friend was giving me a different lifestyle. He was cleaning my lifestyle up. I was involved in church every Sunday. I wasn't out running the streets like I was with my husband. At the time, I was doing something with myself, and it made me
You were going to
productive.
church every Sunday and you end up sleeping with your husband's friend?
No.
No, Your Honor.
Okay, what is worse? Your wife sleeping with your friend because he has more money than you, or your wife sleeping with your friend despite him not having more money than you? From where I am sitting, both things are equally painful. But Mrs. Cleveland at least says she regrets it. That must count for something, right?
Was it just one time or were you all in a full relationship?
No, it was just once. It was just a one-time thing. I felt horrible about it. My heart was with my husband. I love him with all my heart, and I knew that it was wrong for me to be having sexual relationships with him when I didn't even care for him in that manner.
So
if you didn't care for him like that to begin with, why would you go to him?
What a really chatty couple. But even after she got back with her husband, Mrs. Cleveland did not stop cheating. In fact, she sort of continued from where she left off by kissing another man even while they were married. Here is how she explains it.
end up kissing another guy when you're married. What happened?
Adam and I continuously fight every day, in and out, from the time we wake up to the time we go to sleep. and he was at work. I had gotten a message from this guy that I'd been friends with since 7th grade, talking about how beautiful I was.
Wow, really? Mrs. Cleveland says she confessed to her husband a week later, but he insists that that never happened. Instead, he says he got a gut feeling that she had cheated and then went through her phone and found evidence. That is one of the reasons he has now made this decision.
If he's not mine and if the lie detector test proves that she is lying, I'm afraid this marriage is going to be over. I can't continue to do this. I really can't.
Miss Cleveland,
Yes, Your Honor.
the stakes are high here today.
It hurts. It hurts a lot.
You
But-
came into court believing that your husband was 100% the father of this beautiful little boy.
Yes, Your Honor.
The stakes have never been higher, but despite that Mrs. Cleveland is 100% certain that her husband is the father of her child, Hunter, let us put that assurance to test by checking out the results of the DNA test.
Mr. Cleveland,
Yes, sir.
you are not the father.
I thought so. I really thought so. I mean, I see it.
I'm so sorry.
It's okay.
Miss Cleveland,
Yes, ma'am.
you had told him that it possibly could be someone else's biological child.
Yes, ma'am.
Mr. Burnett insists that he cannot be the father of Ms. Fuel because her mother was a neighborhood girl. He says Ms. Fuel is now badgering him because her mother told her crazy lies about him being her father. For some strange reason, Ms. Fuel's mother has decided not to come to paternity court, so we only have Ms. Fuel and Mr. Burnett to contend with. Now, let us hear from Mr. Burnett.
So when were you told that she believed you potentially could be?
I've never heard of it until like about 2 years ago.
Really? So
Really?
You didn't talk
Really?
to my mom when I was
Never,
a kid?
never talked to your mom about nothing
So the
until about
night-
2 years ago. I was told by a family member and
What were you told by this family member?
that she looks like my family.
Oh, that is heavy. Mr. Burnett says that is a complete lie, but Ms. Fuel insists that her mother cannot be lying, which is sort of weird because let me tell you, Mrs. Fuel, if there is one thing that always happens in paternity court, it is lying. But Ms. Fuel has some more things to say.
So my mom never told me Walter was my father. She told me as an adult. She was embarrassed that he was my father. That's why she never came to me and said that. It was this other family member that told me that.
She's embarrassed. Her mom was the one that's known as the neighborhood girl. Everybody slept with her mom.
Wow, that must be such a tough thing to hear about your mother. But we are getting somewhere. So Mr. Burnett slept with Ms. Fuel's mother, so there is at least a tiny chance that he could be her father, right? At least that was what Ms. Fuel heard from her mother. That is right. Everything she's saying here, she heard from her mother.
Who's giving you information?
As an adult, I asked my mom, be honest with me. She told me that there was another possibility.
Miss Fuel, have you attempted to have a father-daughter relationship at all? Have you tried to establish a relationship with Mr. Burnett?
Yes, I'm the one who reached out to him. He even said,
She attacked me on Facebook is what she did.
Okay, that may be true, but isn't it even worse that you're trying to get a deadbeat dad to acknowledge you? This is really so messy, and it is so bad that Ms. Fuel's mother is not here to shed light on the entire situation. Through all of this, Mr. Burnett insists that he has got nothing, but insists he cannot be her father.
She's been told. That's just like me saying that he's my uncle.
Well, I mean,
he's not.
But listen, but no one in your family, no one close to you, no one you love and trust that knows you and knows the other person has told you that news. It's different circumstance.
Okay.
I mean, really. I know this may be difficult for you to accept and difficult for you to take.
This has gone on long enough. It is time to say the truth and shame the devil. Who is really Miss Fuel's father? Mr. Burnett? Or was her mother just lying to her all this while? Let us listen to Judge Lauren read out the results.
Mr. Burnett, you are not her father.
apologize. I'm sorry.
Come here. Sorry. It's okay. There's no apologies. It's all right.
But I will be. But it does bring closure, and I really apologize. I'm sorry to both of y'all.
Apology accepted.